Welcome to Lazy Hour Booktube channel. My name's Christy, and on this channel I discuss all things books and comic books. As always, if you enjoy this video, please like and subscribe, and if you would like to know when I post videos, please click the bell icon. Today I'm going to be doing a bit of a week in review and share with you what I have read this week, and also share with you my progress on the Bookemon Readathon, which has been happening for the month of May. The first book that I completed this week was Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson, and I will be doing a separate review video of this book. So if you're interested in hearing my thoughts, please check it out. I'll provide a link above if you're interested in checking out that video. So I won't go into too much detail about this particular book, but I will say that it is a book set in this world where there is two different kingdoms. One kingdom is considered a bit of a rebel kingdom, and in order to keep the peace between the two kingdoms, it's agreed that the king's daughter will be wed to the god king. So in this other kingdom there are these human beings and they've died and they return, and if they return they are considered gods. And so the one kingdom believes that this is heretical to their particular religion, and they're very judgmental and don't believe this at all. So they're willing to though send the king's daughter to wed the god king in order to keep peace between the two areas. So there's a really cool, interesting magic system with this book. So there's what's called breaths, and people that can control these breaths will do so in order to control the magic, and there's colour involved as well. So when they use the magic, colour is kind of leached from their immediate surroundings, and I just found that this particular magic system was quite basic, but it worked really well. It was very easy to follow, it was very easy to understand. This was a great book by Brandon Sanderson. I've really been enjoying his books. I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars. And one of the things that I'm doing at the moment is I'm trying to read more and more of his books. I actually read his Mistborn series years ago and I absolutely loved it. I don't know why I didn't pick up any of his other books following that, because Mistborn is one of my favourite series, but this year I started picking up more of his books. So I started with his series Star Sight and I read those ones, and I actually listened to those on Audible. It was really enjoyable. Great narrator as well. And I also read the Reckoners series as well this year, which my husband actually read first and he really enjoyed them and recommended that I pick them up. What I'm really excited about being involved with very soon, which is commencing next month, is the Stormalong 2020, which is a read-along that has been arranged in order to read Brandon Sanderson's Stormlight Archive books. So the read-along starts in June and goes all the way through to November, and I got the first book ready, which I'm so excited about reading about. So I'm really enjoying just reading more and more of Brandon Sanderson's content and the books that he has available. So if you are interested in taking part in that read along, I'll provide a link to one of the announcement videos, and I would love to hear if anyone who watches this is going to be involved in that read along as well. I'd love to have a chat with you. the next books that I read were some graphic novels. So if you've seen my previous video from last week's wrap up, you'll know that I have started with the series The Wicked and the Divine, and I have really been enjoying that series. I really love the artwork. The storyline is actually quite involved for a graphic novel, and so this week I read volumes 3 and 4. Let me just double check. Yes, so I read 3 and 4, so that's those two there. And I actually, after reading volume 3, I felt quite a bit confused with what was going on. There is actually quite a few characters to keep track of, which is a little bit unusual for a graphic novel, but I really felt that volume 3 brought it all together. It kind of tied things up very well, and by the end of volume 4 I felt like, oh yeah, I've got the story again, I know what's going on. What also really helped, which I think would have been good in the earlier volumes, is volume 4 provides a little page in the front of the graphic novel which has a picture of each of the characters and who they are and what their power is, what sort of god they are. So that would have been super helpful earlier, but maybe they didn't want to provide it. They didn't want to kind of ruin the plot line and the storyline by providing those ahead of time, which is understandable, but it would have at least been kind of helpful to at least have the characters in there that were part of those volumes. But I am really enjoying this graphic novel series, and I'd love to have a chat with anyone that's read them or is reading them, because yeah, I can't believe I've waited so long to get into these. As I've said previously, initially I didn't get into them. A few years ago I read volume 1 and it wasn't really my thing, but I'm actually really enjoying them this time around, and I am progressing with the later volumes, which obviously means that I am enjoying them quite a bit. So those, I think I gave volume 3 4 out of 5 stars, just because I was a little bit confused and didn't 100% know what was going on. But then by volume 4, 5 out of 5 stars definitely, and brought it back together. So that was really great. I recently bought Kip Girl in Colombia from my local comic book store, which is that one there, and you can see that it looks quite fun, it's quite bright, and to be perfectly honest, I had no idea what the graphic novel was about, except that the cover looked kind of fun and I liked the idea of a hit girl. I thought that that would be quite interesting, so that's why I picked this one up. Unfortunately, it did fall quite short. It really didn't hold up at all. So I felt like the storyline, the plot was extremely thin. It has this one assassin, and I can't say too much in case people do decide that they want to read it, but it's pretty much about revenge. The characters that you meet in this book, I didn't feel any great connection to. The character development was very, very thin. It did kind of build something in there a little bit towards the end, but even that really fell flat. I felt like even for a graphic novel about a hit girl, you can expect there's going to be quite a bit of violence, but in this particular graphic novel, it really just felt like violence for the sake of violence. So it was just page after page of killing people and moving on to the next group of people that they're going to kill, and I wanted a little bit more depth to that. Even though it looks fun, and sometimes you're not going to get that level of depth to something that is supposed to be humorous, I didn't find this funny. It felt like it was trying to be humorous, it was trying a little bit too hard, and that we were supposed to laugh at all this violence, and it just didn't resonate with me at all. So that one I only gave 2 out of 5 stars. So for me, I wouldn't recommend that one. And I do know there is later volumes of this one, and I'm not gonna give my time to any more of those graphic novels. It's just not for me. There might be other people out there that enjoy it. If you have read them and you think they get better, please comment below and let me know. But for now, it's not something that I want to continue with. So that's the last graphic novel that I read this week. So those 3 books go towards my gym training category for the Bookemon Readathon. So I feel like I'm making pretty good progress towards the Bookemon Readathon, and I'm finding it really fun just to kind of put in my points and work out how much I've read, and it's kind of like giving me a bit of a push to be like, oh, I'll read that because I'll get more points if I read that. So I found it quite fun. And of course, the Brandon Sanderson book that I read this week as well, that met the category of passionate, so that also went towards some of my Bookemon Readathon points. So the last book that I read was also the Bookemon Readathon book challenge. So part of that challenge was to read The Martian by Andy Weir. So that was my last book that I read and finished this week. So this novel, I'm not going to go into too much detail either, because I will have a separate review video of The Martian. But I will just give you a little quick summary. Most people should know what the book is about, but in case there is people out there that are unfamiliar with The Martian, it's about this astronaut who is part of a group of astronauts that make their way to Mars. He gets stranded on Mars by himself after being injured and presumed dead, and he is trying to survive on Mars all by himself in the hopes that the next Mars mission to come to Mars, that he will get rescued then. It was very sciencey. There was a lot of mathematics in this particular book, which maths and science is very much not my forte at all, so I really struggled to keep myself reading in those sections of the book, and it just consequently it wasn't for me. I can see why so many people do think highly of this book and rate this book quite high, but for me it just wasn't for me. So I rated this one 3 out of 5 stars, and so that is the last book that I read this week. So I think that's a pretty solid effort for this week. I'm traveling quite well with the Bookemon Readathon, and I hope that all of you have enjoyed this video. And if there's any books that you've read that I've read this week, please comment below and let me know what you thought of them, or let me know what you've been reading this week. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.